right, so we are recording today the Take Your Health Now podcast with our guest interview with Billy Best. He's got a great story. It really fits in with our kind of Take Your Health Back Now philosophy, national health freedom, sovereignty, understanding foundational health, what you can do naturally to be healthy, to prevent disease. Touches on all the things. So this is going to be a really great podcast for you guys today. I'm Jenny Wise. This is Kendra Duquette. We're with the Preventative Health Institute and Take Your Health Back Now. And this is our guest, Billy Best, and we'll just jump in.
Hello. So welcome, Billy. We're excited. So Billy reached out to me. So did you come across us because of National Health Federation?
Probably. I mean, that's when I started looking for people to connect with.
Okay, perfect. All right. Just curious about that. Yeah. So I want to jump into Billy's story. He has a pretty amazing story, actually. And it's really relevant right now. And the interesting thing is your story started back in 93, right?
Yeah. I mean, 93, 92. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like it's almost more relevant now than it was at that time. The fact that people need information and they need to be able to have the right to choose what is right for them, whether it's conventional medicine or a natural approach. If there's a risk, there must be a choice. That's my favorite quote of all time. So let's just kind of jump into your story. What happened to you?
Okay. I think just like before, because I know we can edit this all out and everything, but just something you said right then made me think about how, I did go through some stuff back then. But it's been a long time and we're in a different time. So, maybe it wasn't right. It wasn't a right time for people to know too much about it back then. I'm talking about the specific stuff that I used.
Yeah, and actually something interesting just on that. See, we're already off topic. We do this all the time.
Yeah, well, just because what you're saying.
It's on topic, but you're right. And this is the right time because Jenny and I started where we come from is always the cause is the cure. And you really have to address what is causing these issues. Today, we're talking about cancer, but what are causing this illnesses in people, you have to address that in order to actually turn it around and then prevent it from coming back. And we started this over 20 years ago, and it was not the right time. People were not, it was too, what are you talking about? This is too much for me. I can't take this, but now there's enough awareness about these issues and at least enough people that are kind of waking up to this and wanting more information. So that's a really good point. This is the time. And I know I watched you on a different podcast and you had mentioned that you thought you could go on and tell your story. I mean, back then, and then everybody be like, yes, I can turn this around and I don't have to have cancer. And then it was crickets and you were so discouraged. But we have seen that too, but definitely this is a different time and I feel like people are ready. So yes, go ahead and jump in.
All right. I go by Billy Best. I guess, what we're talking about is when I had cancer in the 90s. So that was, I say normal childhood growing up. Had a sister. I was adopted. We were both adopted, but played sports, had, good health, and everything was fine until, when I got cancer. I had seen my aunt go through chemotherapy, and that was my only really frame of reference for what happened to people when they had cancer. She got cancer. No one knew about it. She got treatment. And then, she got really sick, but hid it. And then, it ended up, and she died while getting chemotherapy. And that was the same day that I was diagnosed with my cancer. So the two were it was the same. It was the same thing, So I just thought, well, that's what was going to happen to me. So that's what started shaping my thoughts about I mean, at first it was not to find a natural way. At first it was just to get away from the chemotherapy because I chose to die from cancer rather than chemotherapy. That's like, once I started getting it, that's just how I felt. I said, I don't know anyone that ever died of cancer. It's like I only know people that have died of chemo, and these are like mostly the kids that I was getting the treatment with, and my
Right.
aunt.
And let's
Um,
just point out that you were 16, right?
16, yeah.
Yeah, when you had the diagnosis. Yeah, so keep going. And I just wanted to make sure people understood this, that you were.
Yeah, and I mean, I was 16 when I was diagnosed with cancer, but I had a good amount of experience being in the hospital with an injury I had to my arm a couple years before, where it was 6 operations over 2 years to get it fixed. So I wasn't a stranger to the hospital. Um, and I wasn't a stranger to being a minor, when having to like sign off on medical procedures. So, you know,
Right.
that so that comes into play with, seeing my aunt die and just telling my parents straight up, no, I don't want to get this. Like,
Mhm.
I can't really tell you what I want as the alternative because that's not going to help.
Right.
So it's kind of,
And at that time, I think, a lot of things are similar because family dynamics, kids, people are, I'm sure if you have a child that's sick, you're tunnel vision and you're just going to do what the doctors say. Um, but there wasn't as much access back then just to information. So I feel like it would have been very hard to even, like, now we think, well, you could just Google what some natural resources are. But then you didn't really have that. And plus, you're in the hospital and you're going through all this. So there's not like you're in a bubble. You're probably not seeing other things. So yeah, that's kind of intense that your choice was basically like, okay, I'm going to die of cancer, I'm going to die of chemo, and that's what I'm choosing.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
And one thing that I feel that for me personally is so fascinating about your story, like I don't find it fascinating that you didn't get chemo and chosen an alternative method and you're still here 30 almost 3 years later, because I believe that 100% with all my heart that anyone can do that. But what I find really fascinating is that you were 16 years old and you were able to listen to your intuition and find enough courage within you to actually follow that, like that you were listening to your higher self and you were able to follow that at that young age, because you know
Yeah.
even if people are listening to that, we have at that age, you still have this feeling of, well, there's nothing I can do because I'm a kid and parents know best, conventional medicine knows best, what am I going to do, that kind of thing. But the fact that you listened to it made sense to you not to get it, and then you left home where you had a perfectly happy life. That's pretty amazing to me. That's huge, I think. So anyway, and then the only other thing I wanted to mention, and just I made a note, and then keep going, and I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I just wanted to say that what we teach all the time and what we believe is that the body, if the body, the interferences are taken away, the body is allowed to heal. And also the body can maintain health if there are not these interferences coming in. But we always call it the total body burden, like how much your body can take before it starts breaking down and becoming symptomatic. And
okay,
the fact that you had multiple surgeries, first of all, you had the accident,
mhm,
and then you had 6 surgeries, very physically traumatic to the body. And that was probably also very emotionally traumatic to you to have that accident and then have the surgeries. So that is kind of like your threshold bucket, we always call it. It's filling up, you're fine, you're not symptomatic. Now you have all this coming in. Now
Just
everything
overflow.
explodes. And then that is where you develop these cancer symptoms, which you get tumors or that type of thing where they're able to diagnose you. That's also just a symptom of dysfunction within the body. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to mention that because there's definitely a direct correlation with what happened to you prior to the diagnosis
Right.
that probably led to the diagnosis. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway,
I mean, yeah, it's
story.
like, you talk about that, and these are the things that stick out in my mind when I'm like telling the story or living through it again. And it's the time in between, um, my last surgery for my arm, getting a clean bill of health, and then having that overlap, like getting a final clean bill of health overlaps with one of my oncology visits. And the doctor from my arm, he's like, this has nothing to do, and this has nothing to do with anything we did on your arm. And it's
Yeah.
like, why, like, I was not even thinking that. Like, why would you even say that? I think this might have something to do with, I think what you did to my arm might have something to do, or at least that, like the trauma.
Right. It's
Right.
not like
He's like, but he's like, it's
he
like, why? And
did
that kind of, I mean, that helped me out. I'm sorry, what were you saying? I couldn't hear
It's
you.
not like the doctor did something specifically in your arm that magically gave you cancer, but all of that, trauma to the body, the surgeries, the medications, the toxins added to it, which turned that predisposition on to develop that cancer kind of thing. Yeah. And unfortunately, doctors tend to be focused on litigation and not bodies as a whole system.
Hmm.
Right.
I
Yeah.
wonder, like, when you're talking about that, I wonder um, if that is something in science that is like measured, like like the concept you're talking about of like you dump the load of you dump stress or trauma, whatever, however you just said that. Like, is that something recognized in science? There's or in any kind of conventional treatment, you know.
Not in conventional, but there's definitely a lot of research on it.
Right.
Your body cannot discern between a physical stressor and emotional stressor, or even a generational. We were just talking about generational trauma the other day,
Right.
or all of these things, the stressors, or even just stressors in your life, they definitely enormously play into this whole, holistic piece of what causes you to be sick or not sick, disease.
Yeah, in conventional medicine, generally it's called allostatic load, and it's really just talking about like toxins or imbalances that you can quantify. And we talk about it as like your total body burden because there's pieces you can't really quantify. And that's why it'll never really come into conventional medicine because it's hard to quantify, and then there is no um, financial gain. Like you can't make a pill that fixes your total body burden. You
Yeah.
have to look at it. You have to make foundational change. You have to like be consciously living a lifestyle that prevents these things. And those are generally just changes that a person makes, not something they can be
Yeah.
sold. So there's not, research and development tends to go where money is going to follow. So these are more like intuitive kind of general lifestyle tips that most conventional doctors understand, but they're not using it in treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Understand that.
And we literally have your body burden bucket that we always call it, starts before you're even born.
Yeah.
Most kids now, and maybe not so much when you were actually, that's not true because 20 years ago, there was a study done on umbilical cords, and they took samples from, babies from all over the United States, I think it was in, but 100% of them had 250 or more industrial chemicals in their umbilical cord at birth. So you already have this huge burden on the body, at birth. And then as you go through life, you're born into a hospital, into a sterile environment, whatever happens to you, it just goes on and on and on. So every choice, every thought, everything either adds to or takes away from that. So it definitely adds up, but it's always that one more precipitating event coming in your case was that big accident. But anyway, yeah, it's fascinating. And this is why people can literally turn it around. And we're talking about you had cancer diagnosis, but I mean, goes with anything, any kind of chronic disease, autoimmune, anything that people are experiencing now, it's the same thing. So anyway,
Yeah.
keep going
Yeah.
with your story.
Mhm.
I mean, I've heard of people like I had one of my sister's friends come and it was like the intermission for my niece's dance recital, and we, went outside having like cotton candy or whatever, listening to like a Beatles cover band. It was kind of sweet actually. But her friend came up to me and I'd never met this woman, and she was like, "Oh, hey." She's like, "Yeah, I'm friends with your sister." And when I had fibromyalgia and they couldn't figure out anything to help, they ended up just putting me on so many prescriptions that I ended up going to live like down in Florida and just was just taking like crazy pills because that's all they could do for me. And she's like, and then I thought, oh, what about that stuff that Billy did? Like randomly got it and did it, got better, and like came back and was fine. I'm like, I had no idea. I mean,
Right.
it's just
The impact that you're making and you don't even know it. Like it's rippling out beyond you, but it's
like,
always nice when you
yeah,
hear.
like people are taking something that, like, I mean, I used it for myself. I didn't think much more of myself, with with all the, speaking and, interviews and stuff like that is mostly me talking about myself.
Right.
So to like consider someone else taking just what I've said and then taking it further and being like that sounds like that I could apply that for my specific thing. It was like, wow. It's like it just so like it was just natural. Like it made sense to that person, which I think is, was one of the things that was so helpful for me where it made sense to me, like I understood it the way I understood things that fit into what I wanted to do. And I should
Right.
probably just finish telling my story, which
I
is,
know. I probably got you off. Go ahead.
I mean, just to get it out there in a quick, in a quick nutshell, it's, I ran away from chemotherapy when I was 16. This is in the 90s. Um, my story was all over the news, in the newspapers, on the radio. This is before the internet, but it was on the paper all over the place for like a good month. And I ended up learning about different ways to treat cancer. And so I came home and, read through all the mail and stuff and chose a plan that made sense to me, changed my diet, took a tea that detoxified some of the toxins that I had in my body. And I gave myself a shot called 714X, which is like a solution of camphor, nitrogen, and mineral salts injected into the lymphatic system. I might have some of the science off on some of this, but there'll be links for CERB. We'll post some links later where the information from the people. It's definitely more accurate than what I know because. But yeah, so I ended up, doing this treatment, and cancer was gone. I started like March 10. No, I started January 10 of 95. And then in the like middle, like the third week of March, I got testing at Dana-Farber and the cancer was gone. So I was able to, because I had been on the news and in the papers and, stuff like that. Like I was on Good Morning America and I was able to go and say like, it was something else besides chemotherapy that got me better. Um,
Right. And I just want to like step back a minute. What, like, were you just in the hospital and you just decided you're not doing this and you left? Or did you have those conversations like, I don't want to do this? And then you were told, no, you have to.
yeah,
Um,
this is like when you look like either read the book or like maybe a couple like another YouTube video or something, but that I do link this as part of the story. Going through all those surgeries with my arm and then thinking I was at the end, but having them find additional damage they had to fix, and me saying, I don't want to do this. Like I've had enough. I can't take anymore. My
right.
what do you call it? My bundle,
Your body burden.
my body burden was was getting tested,
Yeah.
and they were like, well, you have to because you're a minor, and you have to. It's
Mhm.
because it's what's best for you. It doesn't make sense not to.
Right.
and it's the right choice. So then when that happened again with the chemo, I said, I don't want this. They're like, you have to. And I was like, I'm better off just playing the part, just go along as if everything's fine, because I know I'm not gonna stay and finish this out, um, and I'm not gonna change their mind because they're right.
Right.
It's a whole lot of just not knowing like what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you, in the podcast that I listened to, you said that you made up your mind, you were not having the chemo and you were going to run away from home, and you left your parents a note,
Mhm.
and then you took off.
Yeah, almost. That's almost 100% right. The only thing was I made up my mind to not get more chemo.
Right.
Oh, because you started the chemo.
I did, yeah. So other
Oh,
than that,
okay.
everything you said was, yeah, spot on. But I did receive chemotherapy. I received, enough. I received 5 treatments, um, of ABVD was the name of the regimen they used back then. Um, so I did have 5, and I did lose my hair. I did lose weight, and that's kind of what pushed me along to. It was that figuring out, it's like if I got chemo on a Friday and I wasn't able to get up and walk around until, Tuesday, and I had another chemo, the following Friday, so I had like a week to kind of get better. I had to time it to like, I feel like every time I go in for chemo, I'm sick this much longer.
Right.
Mm,
So like, I'm running out of time, like to be able to pull this off.
mm. Yeah. And again, the fact that it resonated with you when you were 16, I think is pretty amazing. So you left, and then what was this part of the story where you were found? Like, what brought you back to your family? And then these letters started pouring in with natural alternative options for you.
I mean, the story was crazy. I mean, I was like, I got to Houston, Texas because I saw it in a skateboarding video. And I was like, there'll be kids skateboarding. And we're a tight-knit crew where I'm from. I don't see it being any different anywhere else. Like we all watch the same videos, we all ride the same piece of wood. It's like you know, so I did, and I met these kids, and they took care of me, and I didn't have to say much, just said I got in a fight with my parents, and I was, in town from Boston, and we're like right away, I had, a group of friends. They put me up until, um, it like was on the news one day when we saw it was like I think it was about a week after I left, maybe it was 10 days, and we saw it, like we walked by a TV and it was like, oh no, like and they didn't know what was going on, and I'm looking at them like, oh no, I gotta tell these guys something. And we ended up like hiding, in not hiding like, but in the place that I was staying, like we all stayed there, um because we were afraid that the news was going to come.
Right.
And it ended up like it was these like these 2 punk rock girls brought like a bunch of cans of Coke and like hamburgers from McDonald's and like set up a little trail.
That'll help you with
We
cancer.
were like, yeah, we want to help you. We heard the cops are looking for you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's such a
Yeah.
story.
It was a whole thing because they were sick too. There was like all the drama. It was like the whole thing,
Oh my gosh.
you know?
Yeah. And
Then,
that's
oh, go ahead.
so, I mean, just looking at that as you knew it wasn't working for you there, and then you looked for a community. Like you knew you had that community where you were, and you just knew that you could find that same community somewhere else. And that's a piece of health that a lot of people don't take into account. But having community and having support and having people that just, yeah, that's you're from Boston and you're running from the cops because you have cancer. That's crazy, but we're going to help you because that's what you want to do. Like that's huge for being healthy, and for healing and for making change. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that is huge. Having community, human connection, like-minded people, even if they're not like-minded, they probably had no clue what you were going through. personally, but just accepted it and we're there for you. That is huge. We see
Yeah.
that all the time. People that are kind of alone in their situation, like you would have been had you stayed home, that definitely takes away from health, you know. But
Yeah.
so then how did you go from that to then finding your way back home?
Oh, it was just over. Like I'd been, um, gotten in touch with my parents, was talking with them on the phone. They told me that things had changed and there was information they had new information from people sending letters. They're like, I don't think you know how big the story is. I'm like, I don't know. I saw it on a TV in Texas. Like, I think
Right.
if it made it to Texas, it's probably everywhere else. So,
Yeah.
um, and it was like it was just time. Like that, it was just the right time to do it. Um, I didn't like the situation had changed, so I had to reevaluate with things how they were now, and it wasn't just chemo or die. It was another option. So
Right.
I went back and checked it out, and that's when well, I prayed, right? I was like, I have no idea what's going on, so a little guidance would be appreciated, and
Right.
I just did that before I started reading through all these piles of letters, and I started to organize them. Like some had to do with diet, some so I had all these piles going, and I just kind of did it like that, like by like kind of just remembering, like you can kind of like feel sincerity um when it's there. Like if someone is, I don't know, trying to sell you something, you can kind of tell if
Yeah.
it's
Right.
like
Totally.
if
100%.
they're just sharing something that helped them, that you can kind of tell. And that's what a lot of these were. It was people that were just sending letters because they saw someone else that was like suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
That's
made piles and I looked at them and prayed, and then those ones kind of fell into place. Those ones
to
being,
your higher self. I mean, that's a
pardon?
lot of time. That's the difference between people that are kind of victim mentality and people that are empowered. So you pray for guidance and then you actually listen to your intuition and went with that. You know, that's huge. That's empowerment as opposed to somebody help me, somebody do this for me, you pick for me, that kind of thing. There's a huge difference between the two. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no like tangible like bridge, to find how to like, connect or go back and forth. I mean, like I was just answering the question or asking the question the other day, are you venting or are you looking for help? Like just this kind of communication with people, um, being able to hear, I guess, hear what people are really trying to say. Because I've met a lot of people with the victim mentality,
Mhm.
and I can't, I can just say, this might just not be right. I can always share what I did,
Right.
but I would never say if it was right for someone to do. Um, because that's nothing to do with, that means not me saying that just doesn't mean anything. So I'd rather not say it. I'll just say what happened to me and, how I believe it helped. And that other people can do it. But I've never told somebody, except I think for my friend's dog, I think I said, like, we should try this because they do use it on animals, and he shows all the, so
And a dog doesn't really have a voice of its own, so
I know I
it's a
probably
little
shouldn't have said
different.
that. I probably shouldn't have said that because, I mean, the ethics
But did
of,
it help? Pet health is such a huge issue. We were talking about this the
Yeah.
other day
I
too. Like
mean,
people don't
I
correlate.
think they were just gonna, I think they were just gonna put him down, and he like,
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I did it once. I swear, it's not
Well, we say
habit.
that too, even when we are working with people who are, chronically ill, acute symptoms, they come to us first. Most people just want their story to be heard. That's like the first step. And then when someone's listening, from there, you can kind of tell if they actually want to take control and make change, or if they just want someone to listen. Like there's two variations there. But we always tell people we're not treating you, like we're not creating treatment. We're just giving you the information that you might not have. You have to take the action. You take that knowledge, you take the action, and there's your power. You don't get power from knowledge by itself. And you don't get power when someone's doing something for you or to you. Like if you take that step to engage and make those steps and make those choices for yourself, once you have the knowledge, that's where people really should be. And we should understand that from a young age, and we don't. We're not taught any of this stuff.
Right. Which again, I think that's so cool that you were, because it's knowledge. You have to have the knowledge. Like you got the knowledge when people started sending the letters, and then you have to be able to make a choice with what resonates with you. And then that's where people are empowered. And we do, like Jenny said, we see that a lot where we know we could help somebody, but we can never help somebody. And just like what you were just saying, telling your story, you can't help somebody unless it resonates with them and they choose that. So it always has to come down to, like, your story is knowledge for people, and then they have to choose whether it resonates with them. And then if it does, then yes, they will probably get better, but it will never work unless they choose that for themselves. Yeah. That was a good point for sure.
Yeah, Jenny, thank you for bringing that up. That was like really really good topic or thing to be saying. I appreciate that perspective, and it like resonates with how I speak to people, and it has since the beginning. Nothing I was taught, nothing. It's just the way it seemed was the right way. So part of my story is receiving letters of people who wanted to help me, you know, letters, 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 letters. And then eventually it got to a point where it was people asking for help after I got better. So it's like there's two different kind of arcs in my story going on. One is like getting sick, getting better, and but I think the real arc is the exchange of information when it went from people offering it to me being in a position to be able to provide that kind of information with another who's suffering. Now, only one time that I did, I can't even remember. It's been so long ago, but I know that there was one time where I spoke with a spouse, who their loved one was sick and they were gonna, get them to do it. So that was that kind of language I've learned to, because I thought about it. I thought about it with my situation. This was something that I had to fight to learn about, and I believed in it, and I was able to like take an active role in what I was doing for my health. This was all super empowering for me. Now, thinking of like that might not be a fit for someone if it's just I'm gonna get them to do it, I need to know how to do it. Then I'm like, I'll
100%.
I'll talk all day, and it's the same. It's the same. I'll talk all day to someone that wants to know about it. I'll talk to someone all day if they have cancer and they just want to talk to somebody. But I won't spend time talking to someone who wants their loved one to do it, who's gonna like try to convince someone else to do it. It's just not, I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
No, and it never works. And again, we see that all the time. And it's that same what we were just talking about. You can't make somebody else do anything.
Yeah.
And you can't, even if you want it with all of your heart and you feel like, yes, 100% what Billy Best did, it's going to help you, and it probably would help that person. But if they don't believe it, if it doesn't make sense to them, it will not work. Like it just 100%. So yeah.
Now,
And let me just say this. Don't
yeah.
say, I was just going to say also, as people like you telling your story, and this worked, this would work for people, us, what we do, same thing. You also can't let it get you down or really affect you in a negative way, because you can help. It took us a long time to get past that, and probably you too, where
Yeah.
you
This
just
is new.
listen. And when people don't listen, it can really affect you negatively. But you have to get to that point where, just like what you were saying, you give them the knowledge and then they have to run with it if it resonates with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your parents obviously got on board with you once they knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, my parents. Let me give you one more thing about like helping people, and I guess how it's changed. Um, so like one of the recent people that I've spoken with, this woman called and she was from Pakistan, and she's like, I heard, your story, and I had cancer. It's been gone for however long, like not multiple years, maybe less than a year, maybe a year. And she's like, I was just calling because I want to know what I can do to make sure it doesn't come back.
Right.
Okay. Now, these are questions that I've fielded for, a few decades now, and it's never one that you can just ignore. You can't. None of these people who reach out, it's like you can't just be like, I have no idea. I'm not answering that. Like you have to have like some kind of answer, and it's that answer has changed over time. I think there probably was a time where it'd be like, oh, get a water filter and do all the stuff, get a crystal, get a water filter, you know, have a list of like things you can check off and feel good that you did it, you know?
Right.
And I don't know what like I was just like something in her voice, like I just had to like give it a little extra, like thought. I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to like, you know, this topic. So what I ended up saying was, I was, I was like, I can only say, for me, it's when I, when I learned I had cancer, and I thought about um, all the good times I had, and I thought about all the different times I could have died up, and I made it to be 16, so by the time I got cancer I was like, hey, I had a good run of it, like, I was able to appreciate like everything I had. So I think I told her something like that, and she's like, okay. I was like, just, you know try being in a space where you're accepting of the situation however it is, and not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, like because that helped me. And it was funny because we talked for like a few more weeks, and she was like, we got comfortable talking to each other, and she said that really it was helpful. But when I like apologized to her, I'm like, you probably wanted me to say something like, you know get a water filter for your shower head, and like, just do all these changes, like don't eat from cans, like these. And she's like, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. She's like, I just needed to hear something. But yeah, but encouraging her to just take a step and recognize what she does have.
Well, and that you're talking about being present and being, and that is so important, and being thankful. I mean, being thankful and gratitude, that's one of the very highest frequencies there are. And just being, because if you're focusing on what did happen, that totally brings you down, very low frequency. And if you focus on what could happen if I don't do something about this, that also very low. So
Yeah.
you're 100% right. You need to focus on the gratitude and being in the moment. That's your
Right. And those lifestyle changes are important, but if you only do those and you don't do that mindset piece, you're never going to have a truly solid foundation. Like you have to have the lifestyle, you have to make good choices. And you have to have that positive mindset. Like there's so much really interesting research on that now. That wasn't available a long time ago, but it just literally being in those higher frequency mindsets, thankful, gratitude, love, really have an effect on overall health. Where if you're in fear or victim or being disempowered, like those also, we know that intuitively. We think about it, like we think about a person who's like happy and grateful, and we think like light and healthy just in our minds, and sick and angry, we think like dark and small. So we know these things intuitively, but we aren't connected to that anymore. So when people are talking about health and overall wellness, they forget to bring that in. And it's a huge piece. And I'm sure that was very helpful for her. And sometimes what you want to hear and what you need to hear are not the same thing. Yeah.
Most of
Yeah.
the time. And that's what we do. I mean, we have the checklist, a mile long checklist, just like what you were saying, because those are important. Those are what cause this dysfunction within the body, metabolic chaos in the first place. But that mindset and that perspective mindset and that exactly what you just said, and the way they perceive every single aspect of their life. And also something else that kind of correlates with what you said you thought of all of those wonderful moments in your life leading up to where you were. That's huge too, because your body or yourself, you can't discern again between feeling joy and these moments that you had maybe on your skateboard when you were 14, this whatever it was,
Yeah.
as to an actual event happening in the moment. It still brings up the same positive emotions and all of that kind of stuff. So that's huge too. There's so much that has to do with mindset. And if people cannot get the mindset piece, they can do everything all day long, everything that you're suggesting, but without that piece, probably not going to get better long term or prevent from coming back. That's so huge. But with just the mindset piece and not the other pieces, you're also probably not going to turn it around and prevent. You need both of those all the time. Yes, very important. Yeah, that's what we
thought it was really interesting that you said, you started this treatment that you chose from all of these letters and this information you went through. It was like mid-January, and then by mid to end of March, you were better, like you were cancer-free, you got that, diagnosis. And that point, you were able to be, like you said, on talk shows, giving interviews, really being out there. And for me, not just that you were cancer free from your, the choices that you made, but that you were healthy enough at that point immediately to be physically out there doing things. Because there's lots of people that go through traditional chemo, radiation, and they're cancer free, but they're not healthy. They're still so sick. Body is so damaged from those treatments that they wouldn't be able to do that. So I think that's a huge piece to look at too. Like, not only did you get that end result, but you did it in a way where your body was still healthy and functioning even immediately after.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. And I thought it was interesting when I was looking you up, because I kind of vaguely, when you mentioned it, I'm like, I remember that story kind of. And I had to look it up because we never really had much of a TV growing up. So I had heard it, but not as much as other people probably. So then I was looking, and there are several PubMed articles on you from the perspective of adolescent cancers and adolescent choice. And that is a huge issue, and that is still a huge issue, because you had mentioned you went to Canada, I think, when you were going for the treatment, or treatment options, but DCFS was kind of called into play, right?
Yep.
Did I hear you say that? Yeah. And that's a huge now still.
Yeah, that was like, oh, that's like one of the first things that I got mad about. This is like, yeah, that was one of the first ones that actually that did some damage. Hearing about, so I don't know, like I'd started writing my stuff down. I was like I don't know, 10, 15 years had gone by, and I was like, I'm gonna write my story into a book. And a lot of the stuff I hadn't even seen, like some of the newspaper articles, some of the, like things like this. I'm at the library on microfiche going through like, old newspaper, reading articles about myself, like what? And then there's the things that were going on at the same time, like in the news. It was like bizarre because some of them were like Dana-Farber getting in trouble for poisoning a reporter who was doing a story about people getting poisoned. Like it was some this I'm in the paper at the same time as this, looking back, at like old globes. Um, what was the question? I forgot.
She had just mentioned that once your parents were on board with you, then actually being able to make those choices and have them support you, and then DCFS gets involved and you have to go out of the country. And it
Oh
sounds like
yeah.
you didn't, like maybe you were insulated from a little bit of that while it was going on, but then looking back and seeing the
Yep.
commentary.
But as I'm going through that, and I'm like, I mean, I'm feeling emotions like I didn't realize I'd done this to the people around me, like I'm living it now through like not such a selfish way, like not just a, survival. Um, but so now I'm writing about it and I'm treating it like a job. Like I'm waking up, I'm having coffee and breakfast, going to work, sitting at the table, taking lunch, clocking out, just at home, just sitting on the couch, but like writing.
Right.
And like I get this call from this attorney from Minnesota, and he's like, we have a kid out here who they want to force chemo on, but he wants to do natural medicine. Can you come out and just like show your support for this kid in a court case? I'm like, yeah. It's like, yeah. It's like, what? Like, he's a teenager. His family's behind him. They're a strong, holistic community. They're like a farming family. So I was like, yeah, I'll go check this out. And absolutely, like being able to compartmentalize stuff like that too. Like I will go to show support for someone who wants to use an alternative therapy. Now, I mean, there's many opinions you can have if you're going to sit in a position like that, you know, and there's a lot of questions that people ask you. Like the news would ask me a bunch of questions about the case. I'm like, that's not why I'm here. Like that's none of my business. That's you'll have to ask him because I'm only here to show support for someone who wants to choose something other than chemotherapy. Um, so yeah, I went and checked it out, and this kid was he had like a big tumor in his chest, like you get to see it, and we went to court for I think it was like a Wednesday or like a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Like it was the first time the court was ever open on a Saturday, and it was in Minnesota. Anyway, like, you know, they took in like the doctors were up there saying like he's got this, 95% chance if he does the chemo. And it's like, well, what if then the statistics wise, okay, so um let's say Hodgkin's disease has an 85% cure rate with treatment or 85% treatable is what they'll say. Okay, well then what happens if like I believe it's a poison that's gonna kill me. Well, then maybe it goes down to like 70%. And then there's other things like and this I'm sorry, I'm getting offline.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I got really upset when Danny's attorney called me and after spending the week in Minnesota with this family on their farm, uh, and listening to everything that was said in court, I came home to find I found that like the feds were looking for me for kidnapping because they thought that I had taken him
Oh my gosh.
because
Oh,
they had decided that um, he had to do the chemo and he was gone. The mom was gone and
Right.
I was gone. So the judge named me on the warrant as person most likely to be harboring them. So I get to Boston and I'm like,
Hi.
go to my work. It's like, hey guys, what's up? They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I told you I was I told you I was going to Minnesota for the week. They're like, you're on the news. The cops are looking for you for kidnapping. It was like, oh no. So that was like a whole nother thing. And like I was angry at this point. I was angry because I know what it's like to be, a kid with cancer on the run. And it's like another kid's doing this. It just was upsetting. And
Right. And that when you did it, there wasn't that much information out. They weren't listening to you, and you took control and left. And then you got that autonomy back and you got the support. And he already had that support and that autonomy. It sounded like, his
yeah.
family, his community was supporting that. And that some outside entity that has nothing to do with him comes in and says, no, you have to do it. Like yeah, that's
Right.
inciting anger seems like a normal response.
Yeah.
Um,
And that
yeah,
is definitely what
so
you still are,
yeah,
and it's not even just for cancer treatments and it comes down to the parents. Then, DCFS can come in and take their kids, and something like what you just mentioned, it's a crazy thing, even though this, you went through all of this so many years ago, it is still happening and definitely something that needs to change.
I mean, I think there's a very basic way that they discern, like, if you can make a decision for your own health. Because I pretty sure I gave a talk at BU, and it was either BU or Harvard. I think it was BU though, where they have the chart. It's like, the X, Y, whatever, this chart, where it's like if you're in this area over here, or they can like
right. Like, are you
basically,
competent? Are you,
yeah,
an adult? Are you capable of making decisions?
because
And if
they
you're a
had women.
minor,
Yeah,
yeah,
if you're a minor.
your parent should kind of be in lieu of that. And if their parents are capable of making that decision and they're all on the same page, there shouldn't be this crazy interference. Like, it's so extreme now.
Right.
Yeah.
I know there's like so many things though. It's like so now this is where I start like trying to like I went I'm sorry, were you in Texas at the NHF conference, National
I
Health
was,
Federation?
yes. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, that's where I met. Wait, I didn't.
I wasn't there. Kendra was there.
I didn't actually meet you, but
Oh,
you were
so
in
we got in
Jenni.
touch after.
Yeah.
Thanks. Awesome, even better. Um, but yeah, I went down. So, you touched earlier on like having like getting upset from stuff. Like we were talking about getting upset, and you have to like keep it in like the accepting area. So for like for myself, that didn't happen. For myself, I took it really personally, and I was really hurt when I found out things like while testifying at the NCI that like the thing that I was using was never going to be known because it didn't, it wasn't supported by the pharmaceutical industry, like the FDA. And like just feeling so discouraged from stuff like that, it didn't, it kind of turned me off to, talking about it all the time.
Mm.
And I hadn't written my book. I hadn't written it in a book yet. So, um, it wasn't like I could just say like, oh, it's out there. You can read everything. Um, but like there is a book now. What was I saying though? Oh, so I got like burnt out on conventions. I was like, I remember I went to this one convention, and these are people I had like fond memories of, like events that I had fond memories of, like, you know, hearing about other like ways of treating and thoughts of things, and not even having to weed it out for whether it was for me or not, just taking it all in, which was kind of a little more enjoyable. Like it's kind of enjoy learning about this stuff when you're not like fighting for your life. When the pressure isn't on that high, it's like pretty interesting stuff. Um, but I stopped going. Um, and it had been years, and when I went down to Dallas this past year, it was kind of to refocus and be like, if I do have any energy left or any like value left, with, the holistic community. And I'm pausing because it's like, um, the tougher question is like, what are we working on, I guess? Because I can tell you a lot about these little things that I know about, as far as like let's say the list, it's like water filter, uh it's like all the different
Right. Yeah. I think that at the basic level, I mean, we have lists and we have programs, and if you work with us one-on-one, we'll give you all the information. But like it's been the podcast, just at a basic level, our goal is just to empower people. Like we want people to have the information, to be able to seek out more information, to know that there are options. Like we don't have to give everyone granular details because they're not going to be the same for every person, but just getting the idea out there to everyone, not just the holistic community, that you have choice, you have autonomy, your health is yours. You can take back control of that. And then here are the ways to find that information so that you can be empowered and then make your own decisions. Because you can't make an informed decision if you're not informed, if you have half the story. So I think, like for us at the core, that is our big mission. And we've gotten caught up in that before, where if you're helping people or talking to people just about their particular situation, their health, like that takes a lot of energy. And we've both had to step away from that side of things a couple of times. Same thing. And you kind of have to reevaluate and be like, okay, what is the goal? What is our big mission? And just that empowerment and making sure people have access to information for
well,
us.
thank you for keeping me on track because that's that's like perfect. um
Your big mission purpose now. So you're back on track, feeling more motivated. You went to the conference in Dallas. By the way, anyone that's listening to this, he's talking about the National Health Federation conference that was it in March or April? I can't remember, in Dallas. But the next one will be this coming 2026 in April in Dallas again. Highly recommend it if you care about health freedom. But anyway, but what is your big drive and purpose, soul mission purpose now?
Oh geez, if it was only that easy. Like like
Just off the top of
5
your head.
seconds. No, I'm just kidding.
it seems to be it seems to be all connected, but I could trace you backwards through whatever this path. It's like a path that is you know doesn't stop, I'll tell you that much. No, but so for right now, um after going to that convention, and meeting people, I felt like it was a different time, and I still, this story could still have value out there, especially when talking about health freedom. So it was, it's a community that I wanted to get back into. Now, that was the whole goal. I went down to that convention for a day. Like I flew down there. I've never flown anywhere like that wasn't for a purpose. And it was really just because I saw it on Facebook. I knew Scott from conventions like earlier. He's the president of the National Health Federation. And he is like the most solid guy I can think of, as far as like smart and passionate and like confident enough, like that you know what you're talking about. So that was something I always remembered about him. So I went to check out the conference and I found places like, you know, um, most like, what's the name of your company?
Take Your Health Back Now, and then we have the Preventative Health Institute too.
Take Your Health Back Now. I'm trying to picture if I can see you. Did you have a booth down there or?
No,
Kendra. Oh, okay. No, I have your card. That's right. Now I remember. Now I totally remember. Um, Take Your Health Back Now,
and
right?
we certify people to become preventive health practitioners. We certify them to use our system, our Take Your Health Back Now system that we developed, so that they can go out and help other people. That's the whole thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, we will
Yeah.
have a this year. Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
but what do you hope will, or I don't like that word hope because it doesn't have much action behind it, but what do you want for your story to, anyone hearing this or hearing your story, what do you want them to take away from that? Like, what's your big takeaway?
My story. I mean, the thing that I think is the takeaway would be the gratitude part, you know. Um, and sometimes you have to go through a bunch of pain to realize, how grateful you are. But
Always.
yeah, well,
I said always.
yeah,
Anyone that is a healer or on a mission, like all of us are talking today, everybody has gone through something. Like anyone that has not gone through something, usually they never get to the point where they feel this passion, this drive to do whatever it is. So yeah, always.
and
And
I
then
think
being grateful for that time you went through.
yeah. Um, Another kind of thing that I heard about, I heard someone say it, and I liked it a lot. Was you know, like if you have some kind of some kind of pain or shame or like the most awful things you can think about yourself, just think about it like that's a way you can relate to someone else in like a unique way. So I consider like the blessings I have are like having gone through cancer, having had some physical injuries and some, trauma to get over because now I feel like I can relate with people that have gone through the same thing in a better way.
Right. And also yourself. Look how it changed your life for the better. Whereas if you had not had those issues, you might have just been rolling along feeling good. And then, something else comes up. That's usually how it is. So that's a really great perspective. It comes back to that perspective mindset. So that's awesome. Well, we are an hour in. Jenni and I can always talk forever. So we love talking with you. We can keep on talking. So we should wrap it up. But hopefully anyone watching this really gets a lot of good insight from this story. And I wish you not the best of luck, but I do believe that, like we said in the beginning, that this is the time now. So I feel like your story and the information you have to share is going to resonate with a lot more people at this point. And I will definitely look forward to chatting with you further at the conference if you're going. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I plan on going.
Yep.
I do plan
Okay,
on
we'll
going.
be there. Yeah, we will be there. And then Jenni will put in the show notes the information that Billy has about what he was able to do. And then also, if anyone wants to reach out to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll put all the
Email.
information in.
Oh, I have
Yeah.
a book too. Maybe put the link up for a book.
Yeah, for sure. That way people can dive in. I
Yeah, I'll
mean,
send.
we're saying it's been an hour. It's a long time for people to listen sometimes. So we appreciate everyone that made it to the end. But if you want more details, yeah, the book, we'll link that so that you can hear everything. And yes, we always appreciate when other voices come on because the more voices we can get out there, the different perspectives. Someone might connect with you much differently than they connect with me or Kendra. So just having all of that out there for people to connect with so they can make a change or feel empowered or share with someone else. That's huge and we appreciate that. Yeah. So thank you very much.
So there are options. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. It was really nice actually talking to you and seeing
Yeah, it
you.
was. Thank you. Thank you. Good talking to you two, both of you as well. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.